I am Veritas Fnord, and this is Did You Know?
Serves you every day in a different way. I am the chief of police of an average American city, and I am proud to be connected with the honorable profession of law enforcement. A day doesn't pass without one of my officers saving some child's life, protecting someone's home or their property. It is truly an honorable profession. You will be amazed at his ability to answer your every question, lend assistance in every problem, or locate for you the information desired. And besides this, never forget that he protects your home, your family, your life. Every day, brave policemen take great risks, public servants. Theirs, being a hazardous occupation, may bring them in sudden contact with dangerous criminals at any time. Why? Well, merely to safeguard you and your home. But do we really appreciate the risks they take? They never know what might fall in the path of their spotlight. Still, they are there, protecting you.
This is what we were taught, and this is what we believe. But did you know that the police have no obligation whatsoever to protect you?
Here's what happened. Back in 1999, 3 little girls aged 10, 8, and 7 were shot to death by their father. And their mother has been trying to sue Castle Rock and its police force for not protecting her daughters. But U.S. cities are immune from most lawsuits, and the Supreme Court will decide whether or not she can sue, in this case, a case that could affect police departments across the country.
I practically read the restraining order to them, and I said, well, what if he doesn't bring them home? They said, well, you call us back in a couple hours.
At 3:20 in the morning, according to the police, Simon Gonzales drove here to what was then the site of the Castle Rock police station. The police say that he got out of his truck and began to shoot into the building, into the police station, with a semi-automatic gun he had bought that evening just after he had picked up the girls. The police returned his fire, and they shot Simon dead. And when the cops looked into the cab of his truck, they found the bodies of Rebecca, Catherine, and Leslie. And the autopsy showed that Simon had shot each of his daughters in the head at close range after leaving the amusement park.
Aired in March of 2005, right before Jessica's case went up to the Supreme Court. The case was argued by Brian Reichel, her attorney at the time, before the Supreme Court in March of 2005. In June of 2005, we received the decision from the Supreme Court finding that she had no constitutional right under the 14th Amendment Due Process Clause to enforcement of her restraining order.
The vote was 2-7, and it was not in my favor. They decided that my rights, that I had no rights, that my restraining order did not have to be upheld by the police. They were ignored. I was ignored by them, and they just chose not to act on it, which really led to the tragedy and losing the children.
The Supreme Court ruled that enforcement of the restraining order was not mandatory under Colorado law, and even if it were, the enforcement of it would not create an individual right that could be considered protective. In other words, the police have no obligation to protect you, even if a court orders them to do so. But what if you were being attacked by a serial killer in front of 2 New York police officers? Well, Surely then the police would protect you, right?
It was a terrifying weekend in New York, and we have new details tonight about the man accused of going on a bloody 28-hour stabbing spree across the biggest city in the country. Police say this man went on the violent rampage over the weekend, stabbing 3 people to death, running down and killing a pedestrian with a stolen car, and attacking innocent strangers. We're told it all came to an end yesterday, mercifully, on a subway car beneath Times Square in Manhattan after one of his victims fought back. Cops say officers helped wrestle the suspect to the ground before finally taking him into custody. Cops say officers helped wrestle the suspect to the ground before finally taking him into custody.
Cops say officers helped wrestle the suspect to the ground before finally taking him into custody.
First up, he is locked up, and tonight we're learning more about the crazed man behind a 28-hour stabbing spree, police say. Let's go to Peter Thorne. He's live tonight in Times Square.
From unemployed graffiti artist and crack user to homicidal maniac, that's the picture police painted earlier today of the man whose murder rampage was only ended by 3 heroic police officers, who risked their lives to take him down.
By 3 heroic police officers who risked their lives to take him down.
These are the heroes, police officers Terrence Howell and Tamara Taylor, and off-duty detective Marcelo Razzo. Gelman was on the subway pretending to be a cop and demanding access to the motorman's cab. But the real cops were inside with the motorman. They opened the door, saw Gelman with his knife, and jumped on him as passengers ran for their lives. Saw Gelman with his knife and jumped on him as passengers ran for their lives. Saw Gelman with his knife and jumped on him as passengers ran for their lives.
My name is Joseph Lozito. On February 12, 2011, my life was changed forever. It happened on the subway just like this. I sit down, it's a first seat in the first car. On the other side of this wall is the engineer of the train. After I sit down, 2 uniformed police officers enter the train the same door I did. They proceed to go right into the motorman's compartment through a door just like this. The next thing I know, a man comes up from the middle of the car. He comes to a door, starts banging on the door, bang, 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 looking through the window. And he says, "Let me in, I'm the police." And the police officer behind the door, looking through that window, looks at him and says, "You're not the police." With that, the gentleman turns around and walks back to the middle of the car. As soon as that gentleman left this area, another person that was standing right here next to me comes up here, frantically starts tapping on the window, alternately tapping and looking over his shoulder at the first man, trying to get the police attention, trying to get them to come out. And he's tapping on the window and he's waving, and he's tapping on the window and he's waving. Still no action, they don't come out. The first gentleman that tried to get in, the one who impersonated a police officer, stops 2 feet from me, maybe 3 feet from the store, looks at me, looks down at me, I look up at him, he takes out an 8-inch cooking knife, looks me dead in the eye and says, "You're gonna die, you're gonna die." And with that, he takes the knife and plunges it into my face. I realize now I'm in a fight. So he plunges the knife into my face, now he's gonna come back. So he recoils his arm back for another plunge, and when he brings it back, I shot for his legs. And while I took him down, I was able to take him down, it gave him free rein for the back of my head. And while I was taking him down, he proceeded to stab me and slice me in the back of the head 3 separate times down to my skull. Now what he's doing is he's lying flat on the floor, he has a knife in his hand, and he's slicing up trying to get me. And I'm trying to catch his hand with my left hand. Finally, the 3rd time he slices up, I'm able to catch his hand, I slam it down, he drops the knife. Right then and there is when I felt a tap on my shoulder, and it was the male cop that was in here, and he taps me on the shoulder and he says, "Okay, you can get up now, we got him." I'm able to catch his hand, I slam it down, he drops the knife. Right then and there is when I felt a tap on my shoulder, and it was the male cop that was in here, and he taps him on the shoulder and he says, "Okay, you can get up now, we got him."
Oh, we got him.
Let's recap. This hero and this hero were looking for this serial killer as part of a citywide manhunt. The serial killer walked up to them in the subway car they were in and tried to get in the door. When the police wouldn't let him in, he began attacking Joe Lozito with a butcher's knife. The police watched Lozito as he fought the serial killer barehanded, and after Lozito disarmed him, they came out from behind the door and said, "We've got him." When asked why Officer Howell, who was credited with the arrest, didn't come out to help sooner, one grand juror noted that he said on the stand he was afraid to come out because Gelman might have had a gun. Lozito sued the New York Police Department for negligence in failing to protect him, but the city countered by filing to dismiss the lawsuit, stating that the police have no obligation to protect citizens.
But what about the idea that the police are there to protect you? We asked David Kopel, a former prosecutor.
What the courts say again and again and again is you can sue the government because it failed to protect you, but you're not going to win anything. The government has no legally enforceable duty to protect the public.
All those police chiefs and mayors and so on who say, you don't need a gun, just rely on us. Well, that's what they say for public consumption. But when somebody is raped because they called 911 and nobody responded, or robbed or murdered, and the family sues the police come forward with the statutes that exist in every state, which say the police are not responsible for protecting people.
So, if the police aren't responsible for protecting you, who is? Well, you are. Thank God no one's trying to take your guns away.